In this episode of The Good, The Bad and The Bitcoin, I want to show you a way to set up your charts so you can see with just a glance what is currently going on in the assets you are trading, where zones of support and resistance are, if the market is topping or bottoming out, and if there are opportunities presenting themselves for what I like to call the big money trades. As always, I will be using TradingView for this. So if you want to follow along and are not yet using it yourself, click on the link in the description or pinned comment of this video to get it. Using the free version of TradingView will work just fine, by the way. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is, of course, to access our charting module on TradingView again. I want to open a new chart here, so I'm going to select a new layout. And in this case, I will work with euro dollar. You can pick here whatever your favorite broker is. I'm going with, for example, O under here. Now I will work with a daily chart because remember, this is going to be my setup where I want to get an overview of what is going on with the asset. However, you can apply this actually to almost any time frame. If you are a beginner, however, I highly recommend to first stick to the daily time frames because the lower you go in the time frames, the more noise you will have, and more noise means trading-wise that you will have a lot of more fake signals. And these fake signals, especially if you're a beginner, can be very frustrating and can lead to over trading or to just making not financially good trading decisions. Good, we can remove the volume here. We don't really need this. I'm opting here for not for normal candlesticks, but for so-called Heikin Ashi candles. Why? Because I like how they display trends better than just plain candlesticks. However, you can, if you prefer just normal candlesticks, also stick here with candlesticks, of course. Next step would now normally be that I would kind of zoom out here and start to pick here the tool to draw my horizontal lines to get a feeling where are areas of support and resistance of the chart. And this can be quite laborsome, especially if you want to update this every day and you are maybe trading assets that are a bit volatile. However, there's a great tool that can take this off your hand and add some extra sugar also to it for your insights. And this one is called Dynamic Support and Resistance Zones by ChartPrime. By the way, a tool I also introduced on my video on the 5 best free TradingView indicators. I'll leave a link up here, or that up here, for you to rewatch this video once you are done with this one. So we are going to load this onto the chart. Here we go. And what this tool shows us now is what we would have done basically manually before. It draws for us the most prevalent support and resistance lines at the moment. Plus, and this is very neat in my opinion, it gives us a hint where big areas of support and resistance currently are. So we have the market already a little bit structured and can see are we trading at the moment maybe at a level that might be interested, because the most price action and from my experience the most big money trades you will find usually when markets are either piercing through support or resistance or bouncing off. Next thing we want to do is we want to use another 2 indicators I introduced on that video called Fear and Greed Zone. Let's start with a Fear Zone indicator. By the way, of course, links to all this indicator you also find in the description, of course. And we want to load the Greed Zone indicator also onto our chart. Now you can see here, I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see it better. You can see here whenever we have those green kind of additional candles above our candles, this symbolizes that according to the Greed Zone indicator, the market has reached a zone of overconfidence. Everybody is bullish on euro dollar, and when that happens, usually the market goes into the opposite direction, as we can see here. Eventually, then the market will enter a zone of fear, where everybody is too afraid, which again then leads to the market going into the opposite direction. Now there's one thing, or actually a couple of things I want you to notice. First of all, see how the market really respects and that whenever we enter a zone of too much greed or too much fear, that it turns around sooner or later. Now, the true strength here is if you start combining these zones of greed and fear with the zones of support and resistance. So let's look at an example of this fog here, where the market was at a zone of resistance, bounced off while being extremely overbought, being too confident. And this led to a trade, and this is exactly what I like to call the big money trade, that allowed you to capture a huge move in euro dollar. All the way here from up at around about 112 down to when the market entered the next time a zone of fear at around about 105. So we are talking here about 700 pips of move. This is a big money move. But let's look further. Market then again bounced off here exactly at the zone of support down here, went up into the mode of greed again, which was also here in that zone of resistance. Bounced off again, then without entering fear mode, went up again, went down again. And now the interesting thing here, in my opinion, is look at what is happening right now. If we zoom in here a little bit, we see we are trading here at the moment again at a zone of support, a quite strong one according to the dynamic support and resistance zones. And it seems like the market is also getting into fear mode again. So the likelihood, if this is confirmed today, of course, is there's a likelihood that the market might actually bounce off again and try to attack this area around 109 or 110 again. So this is a possibility, and this is exactly the kind of trade setup you wait for and you get for. Now imagine doing this not only, of course, for euro dollar, but for all the assets that you are trading. Because like I said, you can use this on any asset. And what it will allow you, if you have a little bit of discipline, that is, of course, is to really wait until you see the areas where it's worth risking your money. The instrument you're doing this with, then, of course, is up to you. You can, for example, go long here, euro dollar. You could sell an option, which is something I'm looking in. So to sell a put option here, maybe with a strike of 105.50, 106. There are a lot of possibilities to trade this. Of course, this is a story for another time. So part of my daily work really is that I have a list, for example, of different assets that I'm closely monitoring and go through those assets to see where are they currently in terms of being overbought or oversold. And if there is a need for me at the moment to take action, to go into trades. Very easy, doesn't cost you a lot of time, but I tell you once you find these setups here, for example, like in pound versus yen, up here and down here, these are really usually very good setups which lead to tremendously well trading opportunities. Does it work every time? Of course, it doesn't work every time. So do not risk like all your capital leveraged by 1 to 100 on one of these trades, obviously. But it will help you to get this overview of a market, to understand the current structure of a market. Where are support and resistance? How is the market reacting to this? Is the market overbought or oversold? And from there on, you can continue to do your own analysis. So the next thing you could do, for example, you could see, can I find indicators that back my theory up that euro dollar could bounce here now? So you could, for example, let's say, add a simple relative strength index and see, oh, all right, good. It's also here in the oversold area, which also adds to my opinion, of course, that euro dollar could bounce off here. So I can work here with a very tight stop loss and ride it with a great risk-reward ratio maybe all the way to the top here. Very simple, very straightforward in my opinion. That's it already, guys, for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did so, leave me a like, subscribe to my channel. As I said, I publish new videos on trading and investing from the eyes of the professional traders every week. Until we see each other again, happy investing.